हम्म, आज हम थोड़ा प्रयास करेंगे समझने का कि इस प्रमुख सूत्र में किस प्रकार से एम्प्टीनेस को डिफाइन किया गया है और उस फॉर्मलेस मेडिटेशन की तरफ बढ़ने के किस तरह से बड़ा सहज सा तरीका बताया गया है। यद्यपि in the discussions on the suttas many people have pointed out that there are something more than what is written. So we'll first read it so that we get the background and then try to practice to whatever limited extent really we can practice, because it demands a great amount of um, concentration and visualization practice. So it is the Majjhima Nikaya 121 Sutta, Chulla Sunyata Sutta. Chulla was the shorter discourse in emptiness. Next sutta is MN 122 is Mahasunyata Sutta, which is longer, but their general principles are discussed here. The methodology of meditation itself is laid out. So the main thing which needs to be understood is, what does Buddha mean by emptiness? So when he's asked, you say emptiness, what does it mean? He says empty of self. This is what I mean. So it is a very directly understandable concept in the uh, Theravada Tipitaka. So he says there is some introduction in the sutta, and so I'm not focusing on that. So he says, just as this is there in the Megara's mother's monastery, probably, or in the palace, this word is kind of ambiguous. Megara's mother is Vishaka. So there he points out this palace is empty of elephants, cattle, and mares, empty of gold and silver, empty of assemblies of women and men, and there is only this non-emptiness, this singleness based on the sangha of monks. तो उस मोनेस्ट्री में सिर्फ मॉन्क्स ही हैं और कोई नहीं है। तो कहते हैं ये सब चीज़ें तो नहीं है ना, जो वहाँ पे नहीं है, that place is empty of that. So it's a very straightforward, easily understandable concept. So then from there he starts to develop the practice. Even so, Ananda, a monk not attending to the perception, which means here a mental note of village, not attending to perception of human beings, attends to the singleness based on the perception of wilderness. तो यहाँ पे ह्यूमन बींग्स तो हैं, मॉन्क्स हैं और विलेज भी है। तो भगवान कह रहे हैं कि आप ऐसा विजुलाइज करो कि वो सब नहीं है, और सिर्फ इस मोनेस्ट्री के चारों तरफ जो जंगल है सिर्फ वही है। तो आप उस पर अटेंशन फोकस करिए। दैट्स हाउ दिस इज इंटरेस्टिंग इज डेवलप्ड. So progressively we remove the things which you don't want to pay attention to, and then say, in our perception is now empty of this, and this. And sequentially and gradually, we remove one by one all the things in our field of perception and come to states of formless meditation. So, firstly, the Buddha has advised us to him to remove everything else other than the forest in which the monastery is there. You remove everything from you. So, what you do is you first look at the stuff. Say, we look at the people, look at the monastery, and look at the thing. And then in our mind, we create a mental image and then remove the objects from that mental image one by one. So he says, first you remove the people and remove the other objects, obviously there are no elephants and all that, so that is already removed. So in your perception now, there is only wilderness, jungle hai sirf. So you focus on that. So you work on that as the object of meditation for a long time till that becomes the concentration develops sufficiently. And he says, then this person, his mind takes pleasure, satisfaction, settles and indulges in its perception of wilderness. तो उस चीज पे हम फोकस करते हैं. Obviously, he's telling Ananda, and hopefully Ananda is doing, and he has a very strong concentration, so he's able to do quickly. And then what does he say? He discerns, that he understands, discriminates whatever disturbances that would exist based on the perception of village are not present. Whatever disturbances that would exist based on the perception of human being are not present. क्योंकि ये चीज़ें नहीं हैं, तो उसको ऊपर ध्यान देने से जो माइंड में इधर उधर डिस्टरबेंस होती है वो नहीं होंगी. और कि अब है क्या, देयर इज ओनली दिस मोडिकम ऑफ डिस्टरबेंस, द सिंगलनेस बेस्ड ऑन द परसेप्शन ऑफ विल्डरनेस. जब आप जब जंगल को देख रहे हैं सिर्फ उसी की ओर परसेप्शन है, तो उससे उत्पन्न होने वाला डिस्टरबेंस तो है. उससे उत्पन्न होने डिस्टरबेंस का क्या मतलब, आप मान लीजिए जंगल को कंटिन्यूअसली एक ऑब्जेक्ट बना के देख रहे हैं, तो उसमें वेरिएशन है. कुछ पत्ते हिलेंगे, कुछ पत्ते गिरेंगे, कुछ पत्ते एक रंग के होंगे, कुछ दूसरे रंग के होंगे. हम सबको एक देखना चाहते हैं, वी वांट टू सी इट एज वन आइटम सो दैट द पॉइंट गेट्स कंसंट्रेटेड, but there are natural changes in them and our mind can get disturbed by that. So the concentration is getting to some extent disturbed, but the much lesser disturbance than if you were to see the monks, if you were to see the people, if you were to see the village, if you were to see the house, then there will be much larger chance of mind getting carried away. So in this way you are bringing the focus back of the mind, you are making it collected, उसको एकाग्रता कर रहे हैं उसकी, तो ताकि जो ऑब्जेक्ट है वो धीरे धीरे सटलर होता चला जाए. सो दिस ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ फॉरेस्ट इज सटलर देन द होल ऑफ द panoramic scene which is in front of the Anand's eyes or front of the meditator's eyes. So it gradually removes one by one those stuff. And then he discerns that this mode of perception is empty of the perception of village and the perception of human being. There is only this non-emptiness, the singleness based on the perception of wilderness. Thus he regards it as empty of whatever is not there. This is a crucial statement which repeats everywhere. Whatever remains he discerns as present. There is this. And so this, his entry into emptiness, accords with actuality, is undistorted in meaning and pure. So this is the definition of emptiness, that there is these things are not theirs, but only this thing remains here, that is the perception of wilderness. So that is the only perception which can create this, but what all other things are, it is the perception is empty of all of that. So having worked on this for a long period of time and concentrated, and when you say long period of time, it means it reaches the excess concentration, and if possible, appana concentration, the jhanic levels of concentration. And when you are saying, for example, when somebody is sitting in a palace, how is he going to have a perception of wilderness? He is obviously using his visualization. इन दिनों हमारे चार तरफ ये है, उसको कई बार देखा हुआ है, many times they have already seen that, so they focus on that which they want to bring into attention and leave others from the field of perception. So in this way, the visualization is very strongly involved in this process. Then it goes further now. Further, Ananda, the monk not attending to the person of human being, not attending to the perception of wilderness, तो wilderness के perception को भी हटा रहा है. Then he attends to the singleness based on the perception of earth. तो जो धरती है उसमें ही है विल्डरनेस, तो उसको भी हटा दिया, सारी चीजें हट गई, तो अब सिर्फ धरती रह गई, अर्थ रह गया. सो हिज माइंड टेक्स प्लेजर, सेटिस्फैक्शन, सेटल्स एंड इंडल्जेस इन दिस means he is गेटिंग फोकस्ड ऑन दैट, एकाग्रता उस तरफ बढ़ा रहे हैं। और उसके लिए एक इंस्ट्रक्शन और दे रहे हैं, विदाउट अटेंडिंग टू ऑल द रिजेस एंड हालोज, द रिवर रेवाइन्स ट्रैक्ट्स ऑफ स्टम्प्स एंड थॉर्न, craggy irregularities of the earth, he attends to the singleness based on perception, which means जैसे मैंने अर्थ की फोटो लगाई, उसमें बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, माउंटेन्स हैं, ओशंस हैं, कहीं पे अगर वो अपने आसपास के अर्थ को देख रहे होंगे तो वहाँ पे भी कहीं गड्ढे हैं, कहीं और पानी है, कहीं पे उबड़ खाबड़ जमीन है। तो जो उसकी उबड़ खाबड़ता है उसको सबको हटा के इसको आगे एक्चुअली उसमें बताते हैं कि इसको ऐसे इमेजिन करो जैसे कि कोई कपड़े को या चर्मकार जो है चमड़े को फैला के रखता है, टाइट करके रखता है, वैसा मजूम करो ताकि बिल्कुल फ्लैट हो जाए। सो हेयर ऑब्वियसली द रेफरेंस इज टू व्हाट इज कॉल्ड कसीना मेडिटेशन। कसीना का मतलब होता है द साइन, what is this object which you use for meditation. So Buddha recommends 10 objects are as suitable for kasina meditation, which are the four elements and four colors and two immaterial objects. These he mentions, recommends in the kasina sutta. तो करते क्या कसीना में ट्रेडिशनली क्या किया जाता है कि मान लीजिए अर्थ कसीना पे काम करना है, तो एक मिट्टी का डिस्क बना ली जाएगी, बिल्कुल उसको स्मूथ स्लाइड कर दिया जाएगा ताकि कोई भी उसमें ऐसी चीज ना हो जिसके ऊपर कि मन अटैच हो जाए और वो इधर उधर घूमना शुरू कर दे। बिल्कुल फ्लैट डिस्क बना देते हैं और उसको रख देते हैं, एंड देन यू विद ओपन आईज यू सी दैट डिस्क. So that is called the beginning of the then these are called nimittas, no, these are the signs. So beginning is you have a मिट्टी का ढेला, मिट्टी की desk बना दी. So that is the first level of preparation, preparatory site. And then we look at that for long periods of time and then try to close the mind, और उसका mental projection mind से आने लगता है. So you get a mental view. So you see that dress no longer you now when you concentrated enough, you no longer need the disc. आपके माइंड में जैसे ही आप याद करेंगे उसकी प्रोजेक्शन आ जाएगी माइंड में. तो उसकी वजह से प्रोजेक्शन आएगी. सो वी से इट इज ए उग्गह निमित्ता. उग्गह निमित्ता मीन्स the preliminary, the beginning of the concentration, that sign has appeared. And then using that mental picture of the object, we develop concentration more and more. And as the concentration develops, another sign emerges, which is called प्रतिभाग निमित्ता और काउंटर पॉइंट साइन. अंग्रेजी में ऐसा ट्रांसलेशन किया गया, which is a subtler thing, and depending on the nature of the initial kasina, you get different uga nimittas. You can get light, you can get, if you work on fire kasina, you get some symbols of fire coming out, and sometimes you can get for example, with breath, if you work, sometimes you get a light, small, mild light, large light, yellowish light, whitish light, or sometimes see it as रुई को क्या कहते हैं, कॉटन, flake of cotton flake. Sometimes people get a mental image of a pagoda or of a temple or of a deity. So these are the various counterpoint signs which are based on that but not directly related to that, not of the same shape as that. And that counterpoint sign denotes the deeper concentration, and that is called the excess concentration. So when the उग्गह निमित्ता अपीयर्स, दैट इज आपने जिसको देख रहे थे उसी की मेंटल पिक्चर आने लगी, उसको कहा जाता है खनिक समाधि. सो दैट इज द खनिक समाधि डेफिनेशन इन विशुद्धि मग्गा, दैट और इन द कमेंट्रियल लिटरेचर, कि आप जिस ऑब्जेक्ट को देख रहे थे उसकी मेंटल पिक्चर आपके सामने आनी शुरू हो गई, अब आप उस ऑब्जेक्ट की जरूरत नहीं है. सो दैट इज द खनिक समाधि. व्हेन द प्रतिभाग निमित्ता अपीयर, देन इट इज सेड द कंसंट्रेशन इज इंक्रीज टू द एक्सटेंट ऑफ becoming a totally different mental picture, and then we say it is excess concentration. You are about to access the jhanic apana stage, and when you arpan हो जाता है मन, उसी में absorb हो जाता है, And when you work on that for long periods of time, mind gets totally absorbed in that. And then we say it is absorption meditation or jhanic level of concentration. So here, it's not very clear whether the Buddha is advising Ananda that you should make a kasina or not. So different teachers have given different interpretations. For example, Bhikkhu Bodhi says, you just observe the earth, say, and then extend that earth all around in your mind and extend it so that it envelops your complete perception and there's nothing left. All around you, there is the earth. So it means you have to extend that perception. In other jhanas, normally extension is done of the counterpoint sign. जैसे जो अजान ब्रह्म और उनका जो स्कूल है वो काउंटर पॉइंट साइन पे ही ध्यान करने को महत्व देते हैं कि जो आपका जैसे लाइट एमर्ज का खासतौर में आनापान में लाइट का एमर्जेंस बड़ा कॉमन है, आई मीन यूजुअल है। तो लाइट कैन अपीयर, पहले तो फ्लैशेस आएंगे, फिर लाइट ऐसे आती है कि लगता है बहुत ही अंधेरे में बैठे हैं। कई बार इल्यूजन हो जाता है कि आप मेडिटेशन सेल में ध्यान कर रहे हैं और बहुत ग्लेयरिंग लाइट आ गई तो लगता है लाइट हमने जला तो नहीं दी। यू ओपन योर आईज एंड सी नो इट्स अटर डार्कनेस देयर, बट यू क्लोज योर आईज एंड अगेन द फील्ड ऑफ द मेंटल field is full of light. So those kind of experiences are called the Patibhag Nimitta or the counterpoint sign. They indicate a deeper level of concentration. And then you work on them. As you work on them, they can get either expanded, they'll expand in any direction, one direction, all directions, depending on the level of concentration. Sometimes they are very fine light, मतलब ऐसे लगता है जैसे जुगनू की तरह एक बड़ी शांत लाइट आती है, वाइट सी लाइट या येलोइश लाइट, जैसे चांद सूर्य जिसकी चंद्रमा की रोशनी होती है, बड़ी डिलाइट, बड़ी शांत होती है, कई बार सन की तरह एकदम चौंधिया देती है आंखें। और दोज आर दी signs on which the Ajahn Brahma and others say you should know how to cultivate them, because they may appear and then stay for a few seconds and disappear. So then he suggests methods so that इसको आप संजो के रख सके और उसी के आधार पे पहला ध्यान, दूसरा ध्यान, तीसरा ध्यान हो जाएगा। ऐसी उनकी टीचिंग है। यहाँ पे एग्जैक्टली क्योंकि वो डिस्क्रिप्शन नहीं है तो यही कहा गया है कि आप जैसे अर्थ को देख रहे हैं या तो उसकी इमेंसनेस को आप एक्सपीरियंस करें। Earth is in space and you can experience the immenseness of Earth in your field, and their whole field of perception is full of Earth. Now, whether it is by your visualization or you actually in your mind you expand it is our choice. मुख्य बात यह है कि अब हम सिर्फ अर्थ का परसेप्शन है हमारे आंखों में मेंटल फील्ड में। इट्स ऑब्वियसली ऑल मेंटल फिनोमिना। माइंड में हमारे एक इमेज है, मेंटल इमेज है अर्थ की, जो चारों तरफ है और सिर्फ अर्थ ही अर्थ है और कुछ नहीं है। एंड देन यू कंसंट्रेट ऑन दैट एंड एज ही इज सेइंग द माइंड टेक्स प्लेजर, फाइंड सेटिस्फैक्शन, सेटल्स एंड इंडल्जेस इन द परसेप्शन ऑफ अर्थ, एंड he discerns whatever disturbances that would exist based on perception of human beings and wilderness are not present. There is only this modicum of disturbance, singleness based on perception of earth. इसीलिए वो बिल्कुल स्मूथ डिस्क बनाई जाती है पसीना में। या यहाँ पे भी भगवान कहते हैं कि अर्थ की जो अंडुलेशंस हैं, रिवर्स हैं, ओशंस, उन सबको भूल जाओ, इमेजिन इट टू बी अ फ्लैट स्टफ। एंड so since he says imagine it to be a flat stuff, so some people interpret वही कसीना से ध्यान करना है। So it's not very clear, but the whole idea is that your mind gets absorbed in earth, and he discerns that the mode of perception is empty of human beings, empty of monastery, empty of elephants, empty of gold, empty of perception of wilderness. ये सब चीजें नहीं है। क्या रह गया है? Only the perception of earth. That is the only thing which is left. And thus he regards it as empty of whatever is not there. Whatever remains, he discerns as present. There is this. And so his entry into emptiness accords with actuality, is undistorted in meaning and pure. So this is how gradually he is entering into objects which are mentally and less disturbing to the mind. So क्योंकि उसकी variety धीरे धीरे कम हो रही है. That's why the idea of singleness is being stressed upon. So having done this for long periods of time, then what is suggested is you remove from your mind's view, you remove that whole earth perception of earth also. Further, Ananda, now next step is the monk not attending to the perception of wilderness, not attending to the perception of earth, attends to the singleness based on the perception of dimension of infinite space. तो अगर आपने अर्थ के फील्ड को पूरा एक्सपैंड कर दिया, आपका फील्ड ऑफ विजन कंप्लीटली अर्थ से बना हुआ है, एंड नाउ कंसंट्रेशन काफी हो गई टू द एक्सटेंट दैट नाउ यू mentally think let this earth be removed, and when it goes out, what is left is complete emptiness, empty space, nothing else left. So you reach a infinite space because you have expanded the mind already, so you get a perception of infinitude of space. His mind takes pleasure, finds satisfactions, settles and indulges in the perception of the dimension of infinitude of space, or infinite space पे वो focus कर रहा है, and he discerns whatever disturbance that would exist based on perception of wilderness and so on, and earth are not present. There is only this modicum of disturbance, the singleness based on the perception of dimension of infinitude of space. अब आप देख सकते हैं अनंत आकाश को, अगर आप देखेंगे उसमें क्या डिस्टर्बेंस होगी? Very little, because mind can play its tricks and start imagining, but the possibilities are very large, small. So you have looking at the infinite space around you and focusing on that for a long period of time. And then he understand this mode of perception is empty of the perception of everything else. It only has there is only one perception, the dimension of infinitude of space. And thus he says, regard that empty of whatever is not there, and so on. So this is how you gradually reach into a state where you are focusing on, you are being aware only of infinite space. And similarly, then you remove infinite space and you visualize what is observing that infinite space, that is the consciousness, which also is infinite. So now you are going into subtler and subtler objects. So you remove that infinite space perception, you come to infinite constant consciousness. Then you remove that also from your perception, nothingness. And then you remove that from perception, then you come to a neva sanya, na sanya. Those things are pretty difficult. So up to this, I found it is doable. If you have a good visualization capability, we can gradually work in this manner and come to a state where infinitude of space can be experienced and we can stay in that mental state. So we can now practice that. If it is clear what is to be done, अगर कोई doubt हो तो बता दें. Then I'll give some minor instructions according with our place. क्योंकि हम लोग कमरे में बैठे हैं तो so we can accordingly modify our instructions and slowly move towards the infinite space. Is it clear? सबको clear है? कोई दिक्कत तो नहीं है?
What does the word base here mean?
Pardon?
What does the word base here imply? That is base of concentration, basis of concentration, basis of absorption?
Yeah, this is the object. Base of infinite space means this is the object of concentration. Okay. Because it's not a thing. So that's how these words are used. So for them, the actual word here is ayatana. This is akinchan akash ayatana. That is it. So ayatana is translated as base. So it is akash ayatana, vinyana ayatana, and shunyata ayatana, and neva sanya sanya ayatana. This is the other word. So ayatana word is base, because whenever we talk of any object, any perception process, we have the corresponding sense and the sense base and the object, which is also, the object is also called an ayatana, eye is also called an ayatana, and so on in this manner. So here it is all mental phenomena happening.
Right.
We start with eye and then move on to the phenomena visualized in the mind.
Thank you.
Okay, so let us practice, try to see. I'll try to give modify the instruction according to us, because we are in the room, and make it simpler so that we can gradually move in the right direction. So we can first time we can have a look at our room wherever we are and see what are the things here. Now imagine if we are to perceive everything, how much chances of disturbance of the mind are. All kinds of things are there. And if you build up the whole in our, even in our mind will get distracted by Bhagwan's statue, the bottle, the field, the TV, the screen of the computer, the statue here, things here. So we can see it's full of things. But even now we can say it is empty of elephants, it is empty of animals, it is empty of uh, so many other things which are not present. So even in this state, we can say our field of perception is empty of all animals, all birds, all reptiles. So it is empty of them. Hopefully not, I mean, reptile may be there. So we can just see how pragmatic this concept of emptiness Buddha is teaching in this. But slowly in other traditions, then it became a rather abstract concept. So we can have a good look at our house, our room. We can have an understanding of the house in which this room is there. We can have understanding of the surroundings which are there to us, and then gradually move out of smaller to larger, and then to have more abstract things where the attention is not getting diverted too much. So the very first thing would be to calm down the mind. So let's do Anapana for about 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. Will it be okay? We meditate till 7, 6:55 or so that we have enough time. Bhanteji?
He has just left the staircase now.
Because we are doing guided meditation now. So having familiarized and seen our environment, sit quietly and try to first calm down the mind with Anapan. We already discussed how to do it. First instruction, second instruction, third instruction. So depending on state of the mind, we can do that and calm down the mind. We can do with mildly open eyes, जैसे हमने कहा था अपने शिविर में भी, उससे भी कर सकते हैं, या आंख बंद करके, जैसा भी उचित लगे. Being aware of the whole body and then feeling the breath as it goes in, comes out. So about 5 minutes, 7 minutes, we'll do that. We have about 45 minutes, so we'll try to accommodate. Having calmed down the mind a bit, then we look at the room, remember, and whichever is the main objects lying in the room, you can say it is focus attention on them for some time. So you can say, my room, for example, is full of books. So I focus attention on books and leave aside everything. So in my perception, there is now a large number of books lying here in front of me, on side of me, on behind me. So I have a perception of books. There's no other perception. There's so many other things. I have omitted all of them from my field of perception. So there is singleness of attention on books. But this singleness has its variety. So if I focus attention too much, then I'll see that these books are different. So, but I take it as a unified thing. You could even have a slight glance at the books in the Almirah or some wherever or whatever else is pertinent for you. You can keep that as an object. Ignoring other things. We try to keep the object spatially large because we are going to move in direction of infinite space, so we keep it spatially large. हाँ? जैसे हमने देखा जंगल इस तरह बड़े बड़ा ऑब्जेक्ट रखते हैं. So in our perception, only disturbance which exists is due to the books. There is no disturbance regarding other people present in the room, other things present. So we say our field of perception is empty of everything else. There is only one thing in our field of perception, the collection of books, or whatever may be relevant for you, whichever objects you have chosen. So use these objects now as raising concentration further. No, we are all using different objects. The whole attention is to make the mind collected. You can see here it is not one pointed. Here it's collecting the mind together. So it is, we are moving towards a Mahagata Chitta. But there is collectedness of mind also. It doesn't go here and there. While focusing on the in the mind on the books, it doesn't go to think about other things which are there, and that much of concentration is there. It's collected on this. That's it. So it's collected on the books in Almira. You can see the in, have visualization of all the books in the Almira. And if I focus too much, then I'm going to see, because I remember which are the books lying there. Then again, the diversity will begin to take in, and mind will start getting, "अच्छा, ये किताब ऐसी है, इसमें ये है, इसमें ये है." So we try to see it in as a single entity. That's why undividedness is again stressed. So Sutta में बात आ रही थी, singleness of wilderness, singleness of earth, and so on. So we try to remove diversity as much as possible. जैसे अर्थ में भगवान ने कहा कि उसके अंदर जो पहाड़ हैं, पानी है, जल रहे हैं, वह हटा के टेक इट एज ए फ्लैट. So having got some more concentration, remove the books and the room and the house from our field of perception, and we now have the surrounding houses, the colony, and so we have that as a field of perception. The surrounding houses. So we're gradually increasing our field of perception. In my locality, adjacent to the houses is a big park with a lot of trees. So I can now remove the perception of houses from all sides and just focus on the park with a lot of trees there. I come to the same perception of wilderness. It's not wilderness, it's actually perception of a park. So I don't bother about people there, just about the trees, large, big row of trees there. So in my mind's eye, I'm able to visualize those trees. So you can also see whatever is the wider commonality around you. Maybe there is some lake, maybe there is some mall or something else, or a playground or a golf course, whatever, depending on whatever is actually there with which you are familiar. so that we don't have to stretch our imagination too much. So we are visualizing things which are familiar, and therefore it's easy to bring them in the field of perception, mental field. I'm sure you must be feeling the difficulty. For example, I am feeling when I bring the perception of the park, mind tends to go to other things which I know are there. So I have to by restraint. Then the park's orientation is of this direction, and I want to see the field expand it in this direction. So I'm not able to do it. And this reminds me of that in the Sutta we had that he's able to expand in one direction to infinity and not in other direction. So you can actually feel what exactly does it mean. And our visualization of such a kind that it looks at that rows of trees in one direction. It can't shift that attention, look at it in the other direction. So had it been a big forest, then there would have been no problem. Huge forest surrounding me. But it's a row of trees. I'm not able to look at it as expansive in this direction as it is in the other direction. I have to change my perception. So I have to struggle so that I can see it as a large collection of trees. So in my field of perception, part of it is going to large distance, part is not. So remember in the views of the past, there was the self is infinite as well as finite. Because he is able to expand the field of vision of the meditation in one direction and get great peace. But in other direction, he is not able to do that. So he thinks, oh, this direction, the world is infinite. In this direction, it is finite. This is how meditations with certain bias lead you to a conclusion of that kind. And we can actually experience that difficulty. I'm sure each one of you must be having his own unique difficulty. I'm just sharing what I am facing. My whole attention is on the row of the trees. No, nothing else. People, things there, the park, the gym, nothing. All of that is free from attention in my attention. So the only possible cause of disturbance is these rows of trees have differences, and those may come into vision, and mind may get into thinking about them. So we try to see it as a singleness. Singleness based on the perception of rows of trees. You can also guide your mind accordingly based on whatever is your field of observation. Now slowly we remove even these trees or whatever is your object of attention. And as advised by the Lord, we come to the perception of the earth. Because you can always reach that perception. So there's in our perception, there's this image of the earth. Without any trees, without any mountains, without any rivers, just the bare earth. Now you can visualize in various ways, whichever is appeals to you. You can visualize the earth as a part of the solar system. अगर आपने वो diagrams देखे हैं NASA के, or earth as a single entity, but flat, no undulations, and slowly allow to let the whole field of perception be focused on the earth. If you visualize the solar system, and again we will focus on the earth, leave aside everything else. And you can actually eliminate everything else from your field of perception by mentally, so that all that remains is earth in this space. And so that you don't focus on the space, you allow the earth to expand, so that it fills up the whole vision. And we know earth is pretty big. So whichever way we can do, so that our perception is entirely on the earth. And we keep the attention there for some time. Since we are not able to see the earth as a whole directly, we don't have any memory of having seen the earth as a whole, but we can rely on the memory of having seen the picture of the earth from the space released by NASA, one of which was there in the presentation, or learned about the diagrams of solar systems, and there Earth comes in a prominent way. Whichever way appeals to us. The things which you have seen with your own eyes, they are very comparatively easy to visualize because memory is there. Here, memories are lesser because you have not focused on those things for long periods of time. What we see every day or many times, it gets imprinted in the mind. So it's comparatively easy to recall it. Comparatively, not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. This shift from things to earth is a leap which needs sufficient time. If you are facing difficulty, you can look at the screen, the picture of the earth in the screen, and then look at it for some time and close your eyes. You could visualize ourselves as the astronaut looking at the earth from the above. That's how we got the pictures of the earth, like the one which is on the screen. The idea is to make it as real, as close to reality as possible. That makes visualization easier. You can visualize the astronauts returning from space. At the space, they have it like a small ball, and as they come nearer and nearer, it becomes big and big and big and big, and then it fulfills their complete field of perception. Earth is so big, so big. So as they approach the Earth's atmosphere, it becomes overwhelmingly big in their field of perception. So we can do that kind of visualization so as to expand our field of perception. Our field of perception is completely blocked by the magnitude of the earth. And now we gently remove the earth from the field, and what is left is complete sky, empty sky. So you have infinite space surrounding it. You can visualize you're coming down from a rocket, and as you approach the earth, it becomes so big, so big. And suppose suddenly the earth was to disappear, what will appear is the remaining space around us, complete infinite space, all around infinite space. There's nothing in that. So if you do this visualization, then you can approach the experience of infinite space. And in that visualization of the infinite space, there's the least amount of diversity or any thought arising, and the mind is expanded. So let's stay in that state for some time. Some of the teachers have advised that you can even do it in a very relaxed manner by sitting outside in the balcony and on a clear sky day when there's no clouds. Look at the sky and gradually try to absorb that and keep it as an object of attention, and then slowly let it come into the minds. Rather than visualizing it externally, it becomes into our mind. So there is the Uga Nimitta. And then stay in that expansive state for as long as we can. I think we can open our eyes now. Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions, you can take for a few minutes. I hope some little intimation of what the practice is would be conveyed. It's actually, commentators say that once we come to the projection, the perception of earth, then because they relate it to a kasina, they say then you should practice it till fourth jhana is reached, and then expand. They remove the earth from your field and allow the expanse to come out. But in the sutta, they mention. So what they say, it is presumed. Maybe we don't know really. Maybe it is. On the other hand, there are also teachers who say you can just look at this space, emptiness in your room and focus on that and slowly develop the capability to abide in emptiness. Because in the sutta, it is progressively taken from infinite space to infinite consciousness to infinite nothingness and then to the eighth jhana. So there are variations in understanding. So I just presented one understanding. The way I was able to do it, I just shared to some reasonable extent. Obviously, didn't reach fourth jhana or anything of that kind. हाँ दीपक जी कहिए. दीपक सूरी. Anyway. Okay, there are no questions.
सर
What do you,
एक क्वेश्चन है
Nikhil?
एक क्वेश्चन है सर मैं ये सुत को देखा तो ये इसमें लेट यू नो कि क्या इसका तात्पर्य है as a bullseye is rid of folds when fully stressed by 100 packs। अर्थ को जब वो सीधा कर रहे हैं तो ये बुल साइड मतलब बैल के चमड़ा, जो मरा हुआ बैल का चमड़ा है, उसको अगर हम खींच दें तो वो स्ट्रेट हो जाएगा, ये कहना था।
हाँ, मतलब उसको आप फ्लैट बना के देख रहे हैं ना. अर्थ को आप, उसके अंदर बेसिक आइडिया ये है कि वी डोंट अलाउ दी अंडुलेशन जो है ना, हिली टेरेन, एक्सेसिबल रिवर लैंड, स्टम्प्स, एंड इसके कारण हमारा अटेंशन उसकी डाइवर्सिटी में ना चला जाए, सिंगलनेस में बना रहे. दैट इज द होल आइडिया. नो, यू डोंट हैव टू डू एग्जैक्टली दिस एंड विजुलाइज all that. Idea is, as it is an example, say yathapi. So we need not think of a leather worker or a textile person stretching. This is an example. Say yathapi is just as a hide of bull's hide is rid of folds. Similarly, so too, ignoring the hilly terrain, accessible this, focus on oneness dependent on perception of earth. So we should see it in that sense.
एंड ऐसे ही सर जो 8 ध्यान में जिसको परसेप्शन ऑफ नथिंगनेस कहते हैं ना, आप देखिए उसका पाली वर्ड ना अकिंचन है। अकिंचन को नथिंगनेस कहना उचित है क्या? अकिंचन को
Yeah, I mean, it is, we don't have to take it in literal sense. It means there, किंचन होता है जिसके पास कुछ भी नहीं है. अकिंचन उसी को कहते हैं जिसके पास कुछ नहीं होता है. नॉर्मली वो ऐसे रिनंशिएंट के लिए कहा जाता है जो जिसके पास कुछ भी नहीं है. सो दैट इज द मीनिंग. परपट तो वही है ना, मीनिंग वही है. हाँ जी, दीपक जी कुछ पूछ रहे थे आप. मैं शायद सुन नहीं पाया उस समय. अगर आप हैं तो चलिए.
Mirza, from what little I could experience, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है that setting aside formless, this also seems to uh, be quite effective in just the standard collectedness, and therefore approaching the usual jhan factors. Would you also
Yeah,
have you experienced it like that?
yeah. It gives you substantial level of collectedness of the mind and expansiveness of the mind. Normally तो हम वन पॉइंटेडनेस में फोकस
Yes,
करते हैं,
that's the
यहाँ पे आप
difference.
infinity पे फोकस कर रहे हैं. So it's totally opposite that. Therefore, some people have translated ekagata also as non-distraction. एकाग्रता हिंदी में तो मतलब यही होता है ना कि एकाग्र है, आपका चित्त एकाग्र है. So many people have translated the word एकाग्रता इसे वन पॉइंटेडनेस, ऐसे लगता है कि एक पॉइंट पे ध्यान करना है, ऐसा नहीं है. It could be एकाग्रता of a महागत चित्ता, vast expansive chitta but focused. In the book Jan Purnadhamma mentions this point that the Brahmas are supposed to have the ability to see all the 1,000 worlds at one time. And obviously they have collectedness of mind while they are looking at all of that huge, expansive perception, but mind is collected enough. So, because this are operating at that, their mind is operating at second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, and yet it is expansive. इस तरह की बात भी आती है.
So, what is then the difference between first, second, third, fourth, जिसमें इसी ऑब्जेक्ट से वो फैक्टर्स आ रहे हैं?
उनमें
उसमें फैक्टर्स अलग हैं क्या 5 to
हाँ,
8 में?
या 5 to 8 में इक्वानिमिटी है. There are various extensions of fourth jhana, so to say.
I see.
Mind is equanimous constantly. There's no priti,
हाँ,
no sukha, nothing. It is all neutral. Body's sensations are neutral. You must have noticed there is
yeah,
no
yeah.
joy or some kind of bubbling happiness arising or sukha being felt in that sense. It's all neutral position. कभी इसलिए इनको कई बार फोर्थ ध्यान का डिफरेंट मोड्स भी कह देते हैं कुछ लोग कि चौथा ध्यान के डिफरेंट ऑब्जेक्ट्स को लेके उसी को एक्सपैंड किया
Well,
गया है.
it does seem like that ना कि अगर हम फोर्थ वाले को बढ़ाते चलें, if we basically stay in it in long enough, then
Yeah, it is characteristics are equanimity and ekagrata. When you expand it in this manner, we didn't feel any preeti or anything of that kind. Just neutral feelings constantly.
And yet the mind is very collected.
Yeah.
But we say कि भाई collectedness का एक consequence is pleasant, is preeti, etc.
Yeah, that is
So
with the
how do we
yeah,
reconcile
because
that?
it correctedness का consequence धीरे धीरे बढ़ता चला जाता है ना. When there is preeti, there are some vitakka vichara. Then
Yeah.
vitakka vichara falls, then still there is piti, there is sukha. But the fourth jhan में जब जाते हैं, everything falls off. So when the concentration level becomes very high, they begin to fall off.
Oh, I see. So those pleasant feelings are in early stages of
Early
collected.
stages of
I
They're
see.
in the
Okay.
second jhana, third
Okay.
jhana. Third jhana में प्रीति खत्म है. There is only neutral सुख arises. प्रशब्दी का जो सुख है, neutral feelings रहती है with tendency towards pleasantness.
So by that logic, इसमें भी if you do it long enough, actually it will go through those stages of.
It won't go to preeti, no. It will remain in equanimity and asukhad, adukhad feelings.
Yeah, okay.
हाँ जी, शर्मा जी, आप कुछ कहना चाहते हैं?
Yes, sir. So this sutra is about emptiness. if my perception, I make my perception as temporariness of the life events, and I sit down and bring different life events as it is without attaching to them, will it be okay?
Events, you can do it that way also. You can understand it in that manner. Basically, emptiness का मतलब जो Tipitak में है, it is empty of the self. Here it is actually giving an approach towards, I mean, coming to that jhanic state of mind. But it is, there is no, I mean, it is presumed that we have that much clear understanding that there is no self in empty sky. In infinite sky, there is nothing. It is empty of any self, any essence. So here the idea is to practice those levels of jhanas. That is the insight. If you say the events are empty of self, that is an insight into the nature of reality.
Clear. Let us say that I bring the disease or illness, my parents as a perception, and their death and their going to flames, etc., without attaching to them, and just
that's a different exercise. It is not this exercise. उससे concentration नहीं बढ़ेगी. जितनी आप diversity रखेंगे उतनी concentration diffuse हो जाएगी, because the thoughts will begin to arise. The whole idea is there's no thoughts arise. I'm sure during this exercise very little thoughts will arise. It is meant in that manner.
yeah.
इसीलिए बार बार भगवान सिंगलनेस ऑफ परसेप्शन यूज करते हैं ताकि डाइवर्सिटी ना हो. अर्थ को भी देखा था, पर उसने खास इंस्ट्रक्शन दे दी, उसकी डाइवर्सिटी हटा दो. रिमूव ऑल द फोर्ड्स एंड माउंटेन्स एंड रिवर्स एंड एवरीथिंग. So you don't want to get into, because the idea is to keep the mind collected, raise the concentration level. That is the idea here. Based on that concentration level, then you can investigate the nature of reality. So, जो आप कह रहे हैं वो it is tending towards insight into the nature of reality, कि वो उसमें अनात्म बोध की बात हो रही है.
I was keeping temporariness in the mind and anatta and other things in mind and just looking the events as it.
इसको और उसको अगर हम पहले, क्योंकि we are just beginning, so it's better to keep them separate.
Okay.
This is an exercise in jhana, so let us keep it in that sense and not mix it with insight, because if you start investigating, then there's no jhanic experience. Okay, thank you very much.
So there, in going from the visualization from Earth to space, I find it convenient to
I have one
imagine
question.
as if
sir.
जी
Hello.
जी, आपकी बात बीच में इंटरप्ट हो गई. प्लीज, यू फाइंड इट
So,
कन्वीनियंट टू.
नहीं जी
find it
मैं
convenient to imagine as if you are moving up above the Earth, let's say in an aeroplane or a rocket, and as you move farther and farther away, you see the Earth, and as you remove that from your uh, from your attention, you're left with the space, empty space.
Yeah, maybe if it, for me, when I look at it in that manner, the perception of surrounding space begins to come in. So the idea was to engulf the perception with perception of Earth and then remove it. So that the instructions as given there are followed in that manner. And of course, if one is convenient with that, one can do that way also. That you want to reduce the size of the Earth again, and then the rest of the field expands. One has to practice and see how it works, really. Different people will have different methodologies which may suit them. Surely.
I also found it very practical when just going up and making Earth as small as possible,
Good, very good. Please continue.
and then going into the space without anything.
That's fine. Very good.
ये जो आपने शुरू में कहा कि अपने रूम को भी एम्प्टी ऑफ ऑल थिंग्स, तो हमें एक आदत सी पड़ी हुई है रूम को जो देखते हैं इतना एम्ब्रेन्ड है हमारे माइंड में, तो ये थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है।
These are the ways of reducing attachment also automatically.
जी जी। और फिर उसके बाद आप घर से बाहर इमेजिन कीजिए घर को परसेप्शन से हटाकर, तो मुझे इसमें कुछ डिफिकल्ट दिखी। और फिर बाद में आपने कहा कि स्काई के ऊपर फोकस कीजिए, तो स्ट्रेट अवे स्काई के ऊपर क्यों नहीं हम फोकस कर सकते? दैट इज इजियर आई थिंक, इन माय ओपिनियन। मुझे लग रहा
ठीक
है
है, जो भी कर, जैसा भी कर सकें करें।
स्ट्रेट अवे
देखें।
फोकस ऑन स्काई, बाकी चीजें अपने आप एलिमिनेट हो जाएंगी उसमें।
Yeah. जैसे भगवान ने सिखाया मैं वैसे ही बता रहा था, आप जैसे बाकी
आपने
वो जो
सेकंड
बात
पार्ट में
स्काई को देखने वाली बात है वो भी सजेस्ट की जा सकती है। दैट्स फाइन।
ओके
See, there is an implicit teaching in this whole exercise that you are able to remove your attention from things. You are able to remove your attention from things. So you are in a way not getting you're removing your attachment to them. अगर मैं अपने कमरे की चीज़ों को देख के उनसे नहीं, उनको अपने माइंड से नहीं हटा सकता, तो obviously I'm very strongly attached to them, isn't it?
इम्प्लिसिटली तो है ये।
Yeah, so that's the way. प्रैक्टिस तो यही है ना, जहाँ पे दिक्कत है प्रैक्टिस वहाँ पे करनी चाहिए ना। आसान प्रैक्टिस को करने की कोई आवश्यकता नहीं है। जो आसान है वो आसान है। जहाँ दिक्कत होती है साधना में, वी शुड डू दैट।
ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है, थैंक यू।
जी।
SP sir, kindly unmute yourself.
Sorry, sir. My question was, no, it's not a question, it's a request to consider whether it's relevant here for you to also tell us briefly how should we understand the infinity of consciousness, the base of infinity of consciousness, whether the consciousness here is in terms of the chitta, the heart, or we have to take it in some other way, and what does the infinity of that imply?
Yeah, that's a bit abstract. What is recommended in the literature is that when you have stabilized the mind with infinity of space, then you remove the attention from the infinite space and focus attention on what is being aware of that infinite space. तो जो देख पा रहा है या समझ पा रहा है इनफाइनाइट स्पेस को, वो क्या है? So you go internally and you can't really visualize it indirectly in that sense, but you only think about it. It's so they say that you visualize that this awareness is being aware of whole of this infinite space. So that also must be infinite, which is being aware of that. Awareness must also be of that nature. So with that assumption, you withdraw attention from the space and focus attention on the mind. And that is obviously an abstract concept. So, but you have a understanding that there is awareness of the space. It's quite abstract. So one has to really
Okay, maybe to this
struggle
another
with
time.
it. Struggle
This
with
another
it.
time, right?
And then when you have to say, okay, drop this also. Then the next step, you drop this awareness of the knowing of this consciousness, and then nothing is left. So there is complete base of nothingness. It's even more abstract, that you're not dropping your awareness also. वो थोड़ा किसी accomplished teacher से ही सीखना पड़ेगा कि वो क्या करना चाहिए, what exactly to do. By trial and error, we can at least drop this. What we can do is we can drop the visualization of infinite space. वो तो possible है. And what remains is the awareness of that the space, which is not the physical space, visual space, but जो उसको जानने वाली कॉन्शियसनेस, इस तरह से कहा जाता है. मैंने करने की कोशिश की थी, बट was not very satisfactory. So I stopped at infinite space. That was doable. उससे ज़्यादा हुआ नहीं. तो जो कोई अकम्पलिश्ड हो इस तरह के ध्यान में, उससे सीखना पड़ेगा.
अगर आपके लिए इतना डिफिकल्ट है तो फिर हमारे लिए तो काफी मुश्किल होगा.
उससे हुआ नहीं. मैंने कोई बहुत ज़्यादा कोशिश भी नहीं की और हुआ भी नहीं. मैंने कहा देयर इज दैट आल्सो दैट परसेप्शन कि हाँ ये सीखने के लिए ठीक है, बट वी शुड कन्फाइन टू रूपा मेडिटेशन ओनली, वही ठीक है. गलती से कुछ उस रीजन में चले गए तो बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगी.
जी, थैंक यू.
It is good as an exercise in quietening the mind and experiencing equanimity. That way it works very well. Makes the mind absolutely equanimous. Because you are rejecting everything whichever is. इसलिए वो rejecting शायद करा जाता है. एक एक करके आप सब चीज़ों को से अपने मन को हटा रहे हैं, तो you get a training of dispassion towards everything. This is how we interpret it. So, आप घर अपने कमरे से शुरू किया कि कमरे की जो चीज़ें हैं उनको ड्रॉप कर दिया, सराउंडिंग को देखा उसको ड्रॉप कर दिया, पेड़ों को देखा, जो जंगल है उसको देखा उसको ड्रॉप कर दिया, अर्थ को देखा उसको ड्रॉप. सर गिविंग बिग, दिस इज पॉसिबल ओनली इफ यू हैव dispassion towards all what you are dropping. If there is even a little of passion, you will not be able to drop it. So that is a kind of training. To me, it seems more like a training of getting established in dispassion and equanimity. Because it does not give rise to joy and happiness as comes out in breath observation. Anapan, when you do instruction number 3, you really feel joy and calm, and eventually changing to calm and quietness of the mind. Here it is stillness and a kind of neutral feelings, all the time neutral feelings, and an expansive mind, which is being aware of a very large field of awareness. उस सेंस में ये लाभदायक लगता है. But I would, as a practice, I would prefer to confine to Satipatthana and observing the quietening the mind with Anapan. That's pretty beautiful.
Thank you.
Because we are trying to study these immaterial jhanas, जो मैंने थोड़ा बहुत एक्सपीरियंस किया था, कोशिश उसको मैंने आपसे शेयर की है बस. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. The questions that I wanted to ask at that time have already been answered. My question was basically how to proceed in the meditation, and Sir has given the instructions. So that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
सर ये जो कसीना वर्ड यूज करते हैं वो निमित्त का ही पर्यायवाची है ना?
Kasina is but it is used for object of meditation. Kasina is used for objective meditation. That also is a nimitta in the preliminary. In the beginning, it is called a preliminary nimitta, in the sense that that becomes the object of attention. So it could be a physical thing which we are making. जैसे हम किसी भी ऑब्जेक्ट को शेप बना ली, उसको ध्यान कर लिया, मैंने कहा था ना, मिट्टी का एक डिस्क बना लेते हैं, उस डिस्क पे कलर कर देते हैं, येलो, रेड, blue, then you're meditating on that. Or you're meditating, you keep a bowl of water and see water, water, water. Or you keep some fire and you see fire, fire, fire. तो इस तरह से एयर मूवमेंट हो रहा है, एयर से कुछ मूवमेंट हो रहा है. बुक्स में लिखा है कि आप वो मॉन्क्स फॉरेस्ट में रहते हैं तो वहाँ पे पेड़ों के पत्ते हिल रहे हैं, so you focus on that and recall air, air, air. You develop air kasina and then you practice it like that. So these are kasinas of various kinds, and breath is also seen as a kasina. So you can see breath as a material object coming in. और जब उसको कंसंट्रेशन करते रहते हैं तो करते करते फर्स्ट स्टेज ये होगी कि उसकी मेंटल पिक्चर आपके सामने आ जाएगी. यू डोंट नो लॉन्गर नीड द फिजिकल ऑब्जेक्ट, so you get a mental picture of it, and then you work on the mental picture and you stabilize it so that whenever you want, you can close your eyes and the picture appears in your front of you and you can meditate. And then when you meditate like that for long periods of time, then a counterpart sign जिसे कहा जाता है, patibhaga nimitta, which is an indicator of deeper level of concentration, and which can be related to this but of a different kind altogether. जैसे सांस के करने से अधिकतर लोगों को लाइट दिखाई देती है. It could be a point of light, it could be a burst of light or something. Then we try to stabilize it, and then when the kasina is stabilized, then you extend it as large as you can, so as to see still down the mind even more. तो जो वो फाइनाइट इनफाइनाइट वाली बातें थी हमारे एक पास्ट वाले मेमोरी में, उसी कसीना को फैला के करते हैं, और फैल जाता है तो वो बिकॉज इट गिव्स यू जॉय, इट यू फील ओ दिस इज इनफाइनाइट, सो द माई सेल्फ इज इनफाइनाइट. बट इन दिस डायरेक्शन नहीं हो पा रहा, तो इस डायरेक्शन में फाइनाइट है, इस डायरेक्शन. सो दिस द काइंड ऑफ conclusions people have tried to derive, which are reported in that sutta. So this is the way kasina meditation is done. So before I did our Buddhist path, I used to meditate on a murti. So a murti is also a kasina. If you focus on deeply, then it comes in your mind state, and then you can play around with that. So then you can raise your level of concentration by focusing on the mental image. And since we have some devotion towards that, then it becomes very easy to focus and keep the mind attached for long periods of time. So इससे समाधि पुष्ट होते चले जाते.
ओके, तो निमित्त के बाद आपने जो बताया, क्या वर्ड बोला आपने, परिनिमित्त, क्या बोला था उन्होंने?
पहला है उगह निमित्त, which means preliminary sign. निमित्त का मतलब है sign. Then is patibhaga nimitta, which is counterpoint sign, which means a sign which is of different kind than the object. उगह निमित्त तो ऑब्जेक्ट जैसा ही होगा. जो प्रतिभाग निमित्त है वो कंसंट्रेशन के हिसाब से, आपकी माइंड की प्योरिटी के हिसाब से डेवलप होगा. कई लोग जो कहते हैं कि अगर वो लाइट आपको ब्राइट दिखती है तो माइंड इज प्योर. कई बार लाइट में अंधेरा सा दिखता है तो इट इज indicator of impurity of mind. So these are the kind of things people have written. I don't know about it. When I practiced, you get light. I think many times you get light, vision of light in your mental field. But to stabilize it and then work on it is quite a task. It needs proper guidance. Not easy. Because it appears and then goes away. It just flashes. और सम टाइम कई बार वो थोड़ी देर रहता है फिर निकल जाता है. तो उसको स्टेबलाइज करने के लिए काफी एफर्ट करना पड़ता है, ताकि वो हम पहले दूसरे ध्यान की तरफ बढ़ जाएं. जब वो स्टेबल हो जाता है देन यू कैन इजीली focus on it for very long periods of time.
और ये जो
roughly याद पड़
प्रतिभाग
रहा है,
निमित्त,
सॉरी
हाँ प्लीज प्लीज सर आप पहले पूछ लीजिए.
नहीं, मैं आई वाज जस्ट रिमेम्बरिंग व्हेन प्रोफेसर धर वाज एक्सप्लेनिंग, किसी सुत्त में भी इसके बारे में कुछ डिस्कशन है that somebody was not able to stabilize the light and he wanted to know why he could not do so. There was some sutta.
So I'll be happy to get its reference. मुझे मालूम नहीं, मुझे तो विशुद्धि मग्गा का ही मालूम है, उसमें ही लिखे हैं ये सब कहानी. Maybe there is some reference.
Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe my memory is playing some trick. I don't know.
विशुद्धि मग्गा में तो इस तरह की बात, मतलब डिटेल दिए हुए हैं इस तरह. यहाँ पे कसीना का मैंने 2 ही सुत्तों में भगवान के जो डायरेक्ट वाणी है, 2 ही सुत्तों में एक तो कसीना सुत्ता ही है, दूसरा एक और सुत्ता है जिसमें वो कसीना की बात करते हैं, बीच में आ जाती है. हो सकता है देयर मस्ट बी मैनी, बिकॉज देयर आर सच ए ह्यूज नंबर ऑफ suttas. Obviously I have not read everything. I read a very small fraction of them. Maybe there are.
Okay sir, okay, good to know these terms actually. उग्र निमित्त प्रतिभाग निमित्त.
उग्र निमित्त का मतलब कहा जाता है लर्निंग साइन. ट्रांसलेशन उसकी की जाती है लर्निंग साइन. प्रतिभाग निमित्त की काउंटर पार्ट्स है, which is
Okay sir.
based on that but of a different kind. किसी को टेम्पल दिख
Okay.
जाता है, में चैत्य दिख जाता है, किसी को अगर कोई स्केलेटन पे ध्यान कर रहा है तो स्केलेटन आ जाएगा. So there are about 20 meditations which are mentioned in Vishuddhi Magga, 20 or 22, which give rise to counterpart sign. But there are other 20 which don't give rise to counterpart sign. इस तरह की भी चीजें उसमें लिखी हुई हैं. But since I have not done that, I can't say. What I have done on that basis, I can say, yeah, light does come. That's true. Okay.
Okay. There are few, मतलब कुछ क्वेश्चंस लेकिन अभी वो क्लियर नहीं हो रहे, मेरे मन में ही नहीं बन पा रहे हैं, तो अभी मैं रुक जाता हूँ. और वक्त के साथ अगर क्लियर हो जाएगी तो फिर मैं पूछ लूंगा आपसे.
Okay.
कोई और प्रश्न है?
Okay.